Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the starship Starbound, watching the stars drift past the main window. 300 years had passed since humans last fought a war. The galaxy was peaceful now, and humanity spent its time exploring new worlds and building colonies on distant planets. Jake was 35 years old, with short brown hair and calm blue eyes. He had been exploring space for 10 years, but he had never seen real danger. His job was simple: find new planets where humans could live and study the strange life forms they discovered. "Captain, we're getting close to the Kepler 442 system," said Lisa Chen from her seat at the navigation controls. She was a small woman with black hair tied back in a neat ponytail. Lisa had been with Jake's crew for 5 years and knew every star chart in the database. "Good," Jake replied. "Danny, what do we know about this system?" Danny Rodriguez looked up from his science station. He used to be a weapons expert back when humanity still had weapons, but now he studied alien plants and animals. Danny was a big man with dark skin and gentle hands that were surprisingly good at handling delicate specimens. 3 planets in the habitable zone, Captain. The second planet has oxygen and water. Our long-range scans show plant life, maybe even some small animals. Should be perfect for a new colony. Amanda Walsh, the chief engineer, spoke up from her position near the engine controls. She was a redhead with grease stains on her blue uniform, always busy keeping their ship running. "All systems are green, Captain. We can stay in this system for a week if needed." Jake nodded and settled into his captain's chair. This was supposed to be a routine mission. They would scan the planets, take some samples, and file a report. If everything looked good, the colonial ships would arrive next year with families, ready to start new lives. The Starbound was not a warship. It had no weapons, no armor, no shields. It was built for exploration, with powerful sensors and laboratories filled with scientific equipment. The ship could hold 50 people, but Jake's crew was only 12. They were scientists, engineers, and pilots who had never seen combat. Pete Johnson sat at the communications station, monitoring radio signals from across the galaxy. He was young, maybe 25, with nervous fingers that always tapped against his console. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange." "What kind of strange?" Jake asked. Pete frowned at his screen, adjusting dials and filters. "It's a distress signal, but it's really weak. Sounds like it's coming from the New Eden colony." Jake felt a cold touch in his stomach. New Eden was 3 systems away, a farming colony with about 50,000 people. They grew food for the inner worlds and sent reports every month. Their last message had been normal, talking about good harvests and clear weather. "Can you clean up the signal?" Jake asked. Pete worked at his controls for several minutes. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Finally, Pete looked up with worry in his eyes. "I've got it, Captain, but you're not going to like what you hear." The speakers crackled to life, and a woman's voice filled the bridge. She was crying, her words broken by sobs and static. "Please, someone help us. They came from the sky in huge ships. They're killing everyone. They don't want prisoners. They don't want to talk. They just destroy everything. The orbital station is gone. The cities are burning. My children. Oh God, my children." The message dissolved into screams and the sound of explosions in the background. Then silence. Jake felt his hands shaking. He had never heard anything like that before. In 300 years of peace, humans had almost forgotten what war sounded like. "Play it again," he said quietly. The message repeated, each word like a knife cutting through the peaceful silence of space. When it finished, the bridge crew stared at each other with wide eyes. "Captain," Lisa whispered, "what could do that to an entire colony?" Jake didn't answer right away. He was thinking about New Eden, trying to remember everything he knew about the place. It was a quiet world with farms and small towns. The people there were peaceful, just like all humans. They had no enemies, no weapons, no reason for anyone to attack them. "Pete, when was this message sent?" Pete checked his instruments. 2 days ago, Captain. It's been bouncing around the communication relays, getting weaker as it traveled." "Any other messages from New Eden?" "No, sir. Nothing since this one. Danny stood up from his science station, his face pale. Captain, I think we need to contact Earth immediately. If someone is attacking human colonies— Wait, Jake said. Pete, scan all frequencies. Check for any other distress signals, any other colonies reporting problems. For the next hour, Pete searched the communication networks. What he found made everyone on the bridge feel sick with fear. Captain, I've found fragments from 6 other colonies. Riverside, Havens Gate, New California, Brookfield, Sunset Valley, and Paradise Point. All of them are either silent or sending distress calls. Jake looked at the star map on the main screen. 7 colonies all along the outer edge of human space. All of them attacked within the past week. Who would do this? Amanda asked. Humans haven't fought anyone for centuries. We don't even have enemies. We do now, Jake said grimly. Pete, try to get more details from those signals. I want to know everything about whoever is doing this. Pete worked frantically at his console, filtering static and boosting weak signals. After 20 minutes, he found something that made his face go white. Captain, I've got a clearer message from Riverside Colony. You need to hear this. The new voice was male, older, speaking with the calm tone of someone who knew he was about to die. This is Governor Martin Brooks of Riverside Colony. We are under attack by alien ships. They call themselves the Vorthak Hegemony. They have demanded our complete surrender and evacuation of all human settlements in this sector of space. When we tried to negotiate, they began orbital bombardment of our cities. They say humans are a plague that must be removed from the galaxy. They show no mercy. They take no prisoners. If anyone receives this message, warn Earth. Warn everyone. The Vorthak are coming, and they won't stop until every human is dead. The message ended with the sound of explosions and screaming. Jake stared at the star map, watching the blinking lights that marked human colonies. 7 had gone dark. Hundreds of thousands of people were probably dead or dying. And somewhere, out there, alien ships were moving toward the next target. Lisa, plot a course for Earth, maximum speed. Captain, that will take us 48 hours, even pushing the engines. Then we better hurry, Jake said. Humanity needs to know that. The age of peace is over. The Starbound rushed through space toward Earth, its engines running at maximum power. Jake Morrison had barely slept in 2 days. Every few hours, Pete Johnson found more distress signals from dying colonies, each one making the situation worse. Captain, we're entering Earth's solar system, Lisa Chen announced from her navigation station. Jake looked out at the blue and green planet that had been humanity's home for thousands of years. Around Earth, hundreds of ships moved in peaceful orbits. Space stations glowed with warm lights, and cargo vessels carried supplies between the planets. Everything looked normal, but Jake knew that was about to change. Pete, send our emergency. Codes to Earth Defense Command. Tell them we need to speak with the Galactic Human Council immediately. Yes, sir, Pete replied, his fingers moving quickly over his controls. Within minutes, they received permission to dock at Luna Station, the massive space facility orbiting Earth's moon. Jake had never been to the station before. It was huge, with docking bays for 1,000 ships and offices for the government officials who ran humanity's peaceful empire. As soon as the Starbound connected to the docking bay, Jake gathered all the recordings they had collected. Lisa helped him organize the files while Danny and Amanda stayed behind to watch the ship. The walk through Luna Station felt strange to Jake. People moved slowly, talking quietly about trade agreements and scientific discoveries. Children played in the observation decks, watching Earth turn below them. No one looked worried or afraid. They had no idea that death was coming toward them from the outer rim. Jake entered the council chambers, a large room with windows looking out at the stars. Director Helen Parker sat at the head of a long table, surrounded by other government officials. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes, the type of person who had spent her life making peace instead of war. Captain Morrison, she said with a smile, we received your emergency request. What seems to be the problem? Jake placed a datapad on the table and activated the holographic display. Images of burning colonies appeared in the air above them. The recorded voices of dying people filled the room. This is the problem, Director. 7 human colonies have been destroyed in the past week, An alien race calling themselves the Vorthak hegemony is systematically killing every human they find. The council members looked at the images with shock and confusion. Admiral Carl Bennett, the head of Earth's exploration fleet, shook his head slowly. "This must be some kind of mistake," Bennett said. "Humanity has been at peace for 300 years. We have no enemies. We've never even met a hostile alien species." "Well, we have now," Jake replied. "And they're not interested in talking. They want us dead." Director Parker studied the recordings with growing concern. "How many people have we lost?" "At least 500,000, Jake answered. "Maybe more. We don't know what happened to the colonies that went completely silent." A young woman sitting near the end of the table raised her hand. Jake recognized her as Lieutenant Colonel Maya Torres, one of the few people in the government who still studied military history. "Director Parker," Maya said carefully, "if this threat is real, our exploration ships won't be able to stop them. We converted all our warships to peaceful vessels centuries ago. We don't have weapons, we don't have soldiers, and we don't have anyone who knows how to fight a war." Admiral Bennett laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "What are you suggesting, Colonel? That we start building weapons and training armies? Humanity gave up war for a reason. We learned that peace was better than violence." Maya stood up and walked to a wall display showing human space. Red dots marked the destroyed colonies all along the outer edge of their territory. "Look at the pattern," she said. "The Vorthak aren't attacking randomly. They're moving in a line, destroying one colony after another. At this rate, they'll reach the core worlds in 6 months. So we evacuate the outer colonies," Director Parker said. "We bring everyone back to the inner systems where it's safe." "Safe from what?" Maya asked. "Director, these aliens have weapons that can destroy entire planets. If they want to kill us, running away won't save us." The room fell silent. Jake could see the fear growing in the officials' eyes as they realized the truth. Humanity had become so peaceful that they had forgotten how to defend themselves. "There has to be another way," Bennett said. "We could try to negotiate with them. Maybe we can find out what they want, offer them something in exchange for peace." Jake played another recording. This one from a Vorthak commander speaking to a human colony before the attack. "Humans are a disease that spreads across the galaxy," the alien voice said in perfect English. "You multiply without control. You consume resources that belong to other species. You must be eliminated before you infect more worlds. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. Only death." The recording ended, leaving the council chamber in shocked silence. Maya Torres walked back to her seat, but she didn't sit down. Instead, she looked directly at Director Parker. "There is one option," she said quietly, "but you're not going to like it." "What option?" Parker asked. Maya took a deep breath. "The Warden Project." Admiral Bennett's face went pale. "Maya, no, we agreed never to speak of that again." "What's the Warden Project?" Jake asked. Maya looked around the room at the frightened faces of the council members. "Before the Great Pacification, humanity fought many wars. We were very good at it. Too good. We had generals who could destroy entire star systems, soldiers who never lost a battle, and weapons that could crack planets in half." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "When humanity chose peace, most of our military leaders retired or became explorers and scientists. But one man was considered too dangerous to be allowed in normal society. General Nathan Cross was the most brilliant and ruthless military commander in human history. He won every battle he ever fought, but his methods were so brutal that even other soldiers feared him." Director Parker shook her head. "Maya, that man was a monster. We put him in cryogenic sleep for a reason." "Yes," Maya agreed, "but now we need a monster. Because the alternative is the complete extinction of the human race." Jake looked at the star map, watching the red dots that marked dead colonies. More would die every day while the council debated. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, alien ships were moving toward the next target. "Where is he?" Jake asked quietly. Maya met his eyes. "Facility Omega-7, deep beneath the lunar surface. He's been sleeping for 300 years, waiting for the day when humanity would need him again. The day when we would need our war god to wake up," Jake said. Maya nodded. The question is, are we desperate enough to risk unleashing him? Outside, the windows of the council chamber, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, unaware that its children were dying in the darkness of space. And far below, in the depths of the moon, something ancient and terrible lay sleeping, waiting for humanity to call it back to war. The elevator descended deep into the moon's core, carrying Jake Morrison, Maya Torres, and Dr. Susan Hayes toward Facility Omega-7. The journey took 20 minutes, going down through solid rock to a place that most humans had forgotten existed. Dr. Hayes was a small woman with nervous hands who specialized in cryogenic medicine. She had volunteered to wake up General Nathan Cross even though she was clearly frightened by the idea. Tony Martinez, the head of lunar security, rode with them. He carried weapons that hadn't been used in centuries just in case something went wrong. "Tell me about him," Jake said to Maya as the elevator continued its descent. Maya stared at the display showing their depth. They were now 5 kilometers below the lunar surface. Nathan Cross was born during the colonial wars, back when humans were still learning how to fight in space. By the time he was 30, he had never lost a battle. By 40, enemy forces would surrender just hearing his name. What made him so dangerous? Dr. Hayes asked. He understood that war isn't just about weapons and ships, Maya explained. It's about psychology, about breaking the enemy's will to fight. Cross would study his opponents for months, learning their weaknesses, their fears, their cultural taboos. Then he would use that knowledge to destroy them completely. The elevator stopped with a soft chime. The doors opened to reveal a long corridor lined with blast doors and security cameras. Red lights blinked along the walls, and the air felt cold and sterile. Tony Martinez led them through several checkpoints, each one requiring different security codes. This facility was built to hold the most dangerous weapons humanity ever created, he said. Nuclear bombs, biological viruses, artificial intelligence systems that could think faster than humans, and General Cross. They reached the final door, which was marked with warnings in 12 different languages. Dr. Hayes placed her hand on a scanner, and the door slid open to reveal a chamber filled with medical equipment and monitoring screens. In the center of the room stood a cryogenic pod, its surface covered with frost. Through the transparent aluminum window, Jake could see a man's face. Nathan Cross looked to be about 40 years old, with short gray hair and strong features. Even in sleep, his expression seemed hard and calculating. His vital signs are stable, Dr. Hayes said, checking the monitors. 300 years in suspension, and his body is in perfect condition. The revival process will take about an hour. Maya walked around the pod, studying the sleeping general. The last time he was awake, the council voted to put him in suspension, rather than execute him. Some of the officials wanted him dead, but others argued that humanity might need him someday. What did he do that was so terrible? Jake asked. The siege of Proxima Station, Maya replied quietly. Cross was defending a human colony from alien raiders. Instead of just driving them away, he captured their families and broadcast their executions across the enemy fleet. The raiders surrendered immediately, but the footage was so horrible that it shocked the entire galaxy. Dr. Hayes began the revival sequence, injecting chemicals into the pod and slowly raising the temperature. He saved the colony. She pointed out. Yes, Maya agreed. But he also committed war crimes that haunted humanity for decades. Cross believed that the fastest way to end a war was to make it so terrible that no one would ever want to fight again. Alarms suddenly echoed through the facility. Tony Martinez spoke into his radio, then turned to the others with a grim expression. 3 more colonies just went silent, he reported. New Boston, Riverside, and Green Valley. The Vorthak are moving, faster than we expected. Jake felt anger building in his chest. While they were down here debating the past, more humans were dying. Children were being killed by aliens who saw them as nothing more than pests to be eliminated. How much faster? Can we make this process? He asked Dr. Hayes. I'm already pushing the limits, she replied. If we go too fast, we could cause brain damage or heart failure. Maya checked her communicator and frowned. I'm getting reports from the outer colonies. Refugee ships are arriving at the inner worlds, carrying survivors from the attacks. They're describing weapons we've never seen before, ships the size of cities, and tactics that suggest the Vorthak have been planning this war for years. The temperature in the cryogenic pod continued to rise. Ice crystals melted away from the viewing window, revealing more of Nathan Cross's face. His skin was pale but healthy, and his breathing was becoming more regular. "What if he refuses to help us?" Dr. Hayes asked. "What if he's angry about being put to sleep for 3 centuries? Then humanity dies," Maya said simply, "because we don't have anyone else who knows how to fight a real war." Jake thought about the peaceful ships orbiting Earth, filled with families and scientists who had never seen violence. He thought about the colonies burning in space while their governments debated and discussed. Somewhere out there, alien commanders were planning the next attack, confident that humans would offer no real resistance. The monitors showed Nathan Cross's brain activity increasing. His eyes began to move beneath their lids, and his fingers twitched slightly. "He's dreaming," Dr. Hayes observed. "Brain patterns suggest he's reliving memories." "Probably battles," Maya said. Cross never really stopped fighting, even in his sleep. More alarms sounded through the facility. Tony Martinez received another radio message, and his face went white. "The Vorthak just attacked the industrial world of New Pittsburgh," he announced. 2 million people. The planetary defense grid couldn't even slow them down. Jake slammed his fist against the wall. "How long until he's awake?" Dr. Hayes checked her instruments. 20 more minutes." "We don't have 20 minutes, Jake said. "People are dying right now." "If we rush this, we might kill him," Dr. Hayes warned. "And then we'll have no one to help us." Maya stared at the sleeping general, her expression torn between hope and fear. Cross once said that the only thing worse than losing a war was being too afraid to fight one. Maybe it's time for humanity to remember what we used to be. The pod's systems hummed quietly as they worked to bring Nathan Cross back to life. Outside the facility, human colonies continued to burn while their killers moved steadily toward Earth. Soon, humanity's last war god would wake up to a galaxy that had forgotten how to fight. The question was whether he would save them, or whether the cure would prove worse than the disease. In 20 minutes, they would find out if 300 years of peace had been worth the price they were about to pay. Nathan Cross's eyes began to open, and the real war was about to begin. Nathan Cross opened his eyes and immediately tried to sit up. His body felt weak after 300 years of sleep, but his mind was sharp and alert. The first thing he noticed was that the people standing around his pod were not wearing military uniforms. "Where are my officers?" he asked, his voice rough from the long sleep. Dr. Susan Hayes stepped forward with a medical scanner. "General Cross, I'm Dr. Hayes. You've been in cryogenic suspension for 300 years. The world has changed significantly since you went to sleep." Cross studied her face, then looked at Jake Morrison, Maya Torres, and Tony Martinez. He could tell immediately that these people had never seen real combat. Their posture was wrong, their expressions too soft, their movements too relaxed. 300 years, he repeated slowly. Then the pacification was successful. Humanity chose peace over strength. His voice carried disappointment but not surprise. Maya stepped forward. "General, we need your help. An alien race called the Vorthak hegemony is attacking human colonies. They've destroyed 7 worlds already, and our exploration fleet can't stop them." Cross sat up completely, ignoring Dr. Hayes' protests that he should rest. "Show me." Jake activated a holographic display showing the star map of human space. Red dots marked the destroyed colonies, and yellow dots showed the worlds currently under attack. Cross studied the pattern for less than 30 seconds. "They're using a classic pincer movement, driving toward Earth while cutting off our supply lines." "How many ships do they have?" "We don't know exactly," Maya admitted. "Survivors report fleets of several hundred vessels, some the size of small moons." "And how many warships does humanity have?" The silence that followed told Cross everything he needed to know. "We converted them all to exploration and cargo vessels," Tony Martinez explained. "We haven't built a military ship in 200 years. Cross stood up from the pod, his legs shaky but growing stronger. "What about ground forces, armies, marines?" We have security personnel for the space stations, Maya said weakly. Maybe 50,000 people across all of human space. Cross stared at them with growing disbelief. You're telling me that humanity, the species that conquered half the galaxy through warfare, has completely disarmed itself? We thought peace was better than war, Dr. Hayes said defensively. Peace is a luxury you can only afford when your enemies are too afraid to attack you, Cross replied. How long until the Vorthak reach Earth? Maya checked her communicator. At their current rate of advance, maybe 4 months. Cross walked to the star map and began pointing at different systems. They'll hit New Denver next, then the mining colonies at Kepler 186. After that, they'll probably split their fleet and attack from multiple directions. Even as he spoke, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Tony Martinez received a radio message and nodded grimly. New Denver just sent out a distress call, he reported. The Vorthak fleet arrived 20 minutes ago. Cross showed no emotion at the news. How many people live there? About 800,000, Maya answered. They're already dead, Cross said matter-of-factly. The Vorthak don't take prisoners, and civilian ships can't evacuate that many people fast enough. Dr. Hayes looked shocked. How can you be so cold about this? Cross turned to face her, his eyes hard as steel. Because being emotional about death doesn't bring people back to life. Being smart about war might prevent more deaths in the future. He, walked to the chamber's communication console and activated it. This is General Nathan Cross requesting immediate connection to Earth Defense Command. Within minutes, Director Helen Parker's face appeared on the screen. Behind her, Jake could see chaos in the government offices as officials ran back and forth with reports and updates. General Cross, Parker said, her voice strained with stress. Thank you for agreeing to help us. I haven't agreed to anything yet, Cross replied. I want full command authority over all human military assets, complete access to industrial facilities, and the power to draft civilians into military service. Parker hesitated. General, humanity has moved beyond such authoritarian measures. We govern by consensus now, through democratic processes. Democracy is a fine system for peacetime, Cross said. But you're not at peace anymore. You're at war with an enemy that wants to exterminate your entire species. You can either give me the authority I need to save humanity, or you can watch your democratic ideals burn along with your cities. Another alarm sounded, and Tony Martinez received more bad news. The Vorthak just destroyed the orbital defense platforms around New Denver. The planet's surface bombardment has begun. Cross looked back at Director Parker on the screen. That's 800,000 dead humans, Director. How many more are you willing to sacrifice to maintain your peaceful principles? Parker's face showed the struggle between her beliefs and the terrible reality of the situation. Finally, she nodded. You have full military authority, General. What do you need? First, evacuate all remaining outer colonies immediately. Don't try to defend them, just get the people out. Second, I want every civilian ship converted to military use within 2 weeks. Third, start rationing all resources for war production. But General, Parker protested, some of those ships carry medical supplies and food to remote colonies. The remote colonies are going to be dead soon anyway, Cross said bluntly. Would you rather save a few thousand people today or save the entire human race next year? Maya stepped forward. General, what about weapons? We don't have any military equipment left. Cross smiled for the first time since waking up, but it was not a pleasant expression. Every tool can be a weapon if you use it correctly. Every ship can be a bomber. Every mining laser can cut through enemy armor. Humanity didn't forget how to fight. You just forgot how to think like warriors. He turned back to the communication screen. Director Parker, I need a list of all available ships, personnel, and industrial capacity within 6 hours. And I want to speak with whoever is in charge of your intelligence services. We don't really have intelligence services anymore, Parker admitted. Cross closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then we'll build some. Because the first rule of war is knowing your enemy better than they know themselves. The alarms continued to sound as reports came in from New Denver. The Vorthak were being thorough in their destruction, targeting not just cities but farms, forests, and even individual buildings. They wanted to ensure that nothing human would ever live on that world again. Cross studied the star map one more time, his mind already calculating distances, resources, and possibilities. Humanity had become weak, but they still had advantages. They had more ships, more people, and more industrial capacity than any species in the galaxy. They just needed someone to teach them how to use those advantages as weapons. The Vorthak think they're hunting sheep, Cross said quietly. They're about to discover they woke up wolves. 6 months later, Nathan Cross stood on the bridge of the battleship Retribution, watching as his fleet prepared for the final assault. The ship around him bore little resemblance to the peaceful exploration vessels humanity had once built. Weapons bristled from every surface, and the hull was painted black as space itself. Jake Morrison, now wearing the uniform of a military captain, approached with the latest intelligence reports. General, our scouts confirm that the Vorthak home fleet is positioned around their capital world. War Prime Zexthara himself is commanding from the flagship. Cross nodded, studying the tactical display. In 6 months he had transformed humanity from a peaceful civilization into the most efficient killing machine the galaxy had ever seen. Civilian factories now produced missiles instead of furniture. Cargo ships had become bombers. Scientists had traded their research for weapons development. The cost had been enormous. Millions of humans had died learning how to fight again. Entire worlds had been evacuated and turned into military bases. Children grew up in underground bunkers while their parents learned the art of war. But humanity had survived, and now they were ready to finish what the Vorthak had started. Status report from all fleet commanders, Cross ordered. Lisa Hayes, now an admiral commanding the 2nd Fleet, appeared on the communication screen. All ships ready, General. We have 1,500 vessels in position around the Vorthak home system. Captain Roy Jackson of the 3rd Fleet added his report. Engineering crews have finished installing the special weapons. Every ship is carrying at least one antimatter bomb. Cross had learned much about the Vorthak during the war. They were an ancient species that had conquered dozens of other races through superior technology and ruthless tactics. They believed that only the strong deserved to survive, and they saw humanity as weak prey that needed to be eliminated. They had been wrong about human weakness. Colonel Anderson, what's the status on our ground forces? Cross asked. Beth Anderson, who had become one of his most trusted officers, consulted her tablet. 2 million troops are ready for planetary assault. The Vorthak won't expect a ground attack on their homeworld. Cross smiled coldly. That was exactly why they would do it. The Vorthak expected humans to fight like other species they had conquered, desperately defending their worlds until overwhelmed by superior firepower. They didn't expect humans to bring the war to them. Captain Johnson, open a channel to the Vorthak flagship. Pete Johnson, now the fleet's chief communications officer, worked at his console. Channel open, General. The face of War Prime Zexthara appeared on the main screen. The alien leader looked like a giant insect with 6 arms and compound eyes. His mandibles clicked with annoyance as he spoke. Human General, Zexthara said in his translated voice, you have fought better than expected, but this ends now. Surrender your fleet and we will make your deaths quick. Cross stepped forward, his expression calm and confident. War Prime, I have a counteroffer. Surrender your entire civilization, and I might let some of your people live. Zexthara's mandibles spread in what might have been laughter. Impossible. Humans are weak creatures who value peace over strength. You cannot match our warriors. You're right about one thing, Cross admitted. Humans do value peace, but do you know what we value more than peace? What? Revenge. Cross nodded to Pete Johnson, who cut the communication. Around the Vorthak, homeworld 1,500 human ships began their attack. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human vessels dove through the Vorthak defenses like sharks through a school of fish. They used tactics that seemed impossible. Ramming enemy ships, detonating their own vessels as bombs, turning captured alien weapons against their former owners. The Vorthak had superior technology, but humans had something the aliens couldn't understand: the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. Human captains flew their ships directly into enemy battlecruisers. Marines fought hand-to-hand in the corridors of alien vessels, using knives and bare hands when their weapons ran out. Cross watched the battle from his command chair, issuing orders with the same calm precision he had shown 3 centuries earlier. Admiral Hayes, take your fleet through their left flank. Captain Jackson, begin the orbital bombardment of their shipyards. On the planet below, Vorthak civilians looked up in terror as human bombs began falling from the sky. For the first time in their species' history, they were experiencing what they had done to so many other worlds. War Prime Zexthara tried to rally his forces, but the humans fought with a fury that defied logic. They had lost too many colonies, buried too many children, seen too much destruction to show mercy now. General, Maya Torres reported from her intelligence station, the Vorthak are trying to evacuate their leadership to other worlds. Stop them, Cross ordered. No one leaves this system alive. Human ships moved to block every escape route. The Vorthak had started this war believing they were hunting defenseless prey. Now they discovered they had awakened something that should have stayed sleeping. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Vorthak homeworld was a burning wasteland, and their mighty fleet was nothing but debris drifting in space. War Prime Zexthara died when Captain Jackson's ship rammed directly into the alien flagship, destroying both vessels in a ball of fire. Cross stood in the observation deck of the Retribution, looking down at the dead world below. Beside him, Jake Morrison stared at the destruction with mixed emotions. It's over, Jake said quietly. We've won. Yes, Cross agreed. But at what cost? They both knew the answer. Humanity had saved itself, but it was no longer the peaceful species it had been. The war had changed them, hardened them, taught them that the galaxy was a dangerous place where only the strong survived. What happens now? Jake asked. Cross was quiet for a long moment, watching the fires burn on the planet below. Now we go home and try to remember how to be human again. But we'll never forget the lesson the Vorthak taught us. What lesson? That peace is only possible when your enemies are too dead to disturb it. 6 months later, Cross returned to his cryogenic pod beneath Luna Station. The war was over, humanity was safe, but he knew that someday, another threat would emerge from the darkness between the stars. When that day came, they would wake him again. As the cold sleep took hold, Nathan Cross smiled. Humanity had learned to be wolves again, and the galaxy would never forget the price of threatening Earth's children. The war god slept, but his legacy lived on in every human ship that sailed among the stars, armed and ready for whatever dangers awaited them in the infinite dark. The universe was vast and full of predators, but now it contained something even more dangerous: humans who remembered how to fight.